Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. And today I'm going to do my review of Halloween Havoc 1990. Starting off the evening, we'll go to our first match of the night. It is Ricky Morton and Tommy Rich versus the Midnight Express. I thought this was a good opening matchup for Halloween Havoc 1990. Back and forth matchup between both teams with the Midnight Express keeping the pace of the match. Morton hits a hurricanrana on Eaton in the middle of the ring. Stan Lane then lands devastating kicks on Morton. Morton and Lane both exchange in the middle of the ring. Tommy Rich ends up hitting Lane with Jim Cornette's tennis racket. Referee doesn't see it. Pins for the 3. And your winners of the match are Ricky Morton and Tommy Rich. Hats off to Ricky Morton and Tommy Rich for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night as well. It is the Freebirds versus the Renegade Warriors. I thought this was an okay matchup. Back and forth matchup between the Freebirds and the Warriors, with the Freebirds keeping the pace of the match. Michael Hayes ends up hitting a DDT on Mark Youngblood, pins him for the 3, and your winners of the match are the Freebirds. Hats off to the Freebirds for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. This is for the NWA United States Tag Team Championships. It is the Nasty Boys versus the Steiner Brothers. I thought this was a relatively good matchup. Back and forth matchup between the Nasty Boys and the Steiners, with the Nasty Boys keeping the pace of the match. Scott hits a powerbomb. Rick then lands a bulldog off the top rope on Jerry Saggs. Brian Knobbs then hits a sidewalk slam. Knobbs then hits a power slam for a near fall. Nasty Boys then hit a spike pile driver on Scott Steiner. Rick then hits Jerry Saggs with a chair shot. And Scott hits his signature Frankensteiner on Brian Knobbs. Pins him for the 3. And your winners of the match are the Steiner Brothers. Hats off to the Steiner Brothers for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night as well. It is Doom versus Ric Flair and Arn Anderson for the NWA Tag Team Championships. I thought this was a good match. Back and forth matchup between both teams, with Doom keeping the pace of the match. Ron Simmons ends up hitting a devastating power slam on Arn Anderson. Flair and Reed both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Arn Anderson hitting a devastating spinebuster on Ron Simmons. Flair then applies a figure 4 on Ron Simmons, but Arn hits a DDT on Reed, and this match ultimately ends in a double countout. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Lex Luger versus Stan Hansen for the NWA United States Heavyweight Championship. I thought this was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Luger and Hansen, with Luger keeping the pace of the match. Dan Spivey is here ringside. Stan then hits Lex with his devastating lariat, pins him for the 3. And your winner of the match, and at that time, new NWA United States Heavyweight Champion, is Stan Hansen. Hats off to Stan Hansen for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is the main event of Halloween Havoc 1990. It is Sid Vicious versus Sting for the WCW Heavyweight Championship. I thought this was an okay matchup. Back and forth matchup between Sid and Sting, with Sting keeping the pace of the match. Sting then hits a clothesline on Sid over the ropes. Sting then hits a Stinger Splash, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match and still champion is Sting. Couple of things I'm going to say about Halloween Havoc 1990 before I get out of here, man. Number one, I thought this was a horrible Halloween Havoc, in my honest opinion. I really did, man. I mean, for what it's worth, the opening matchup, Ricky Morton and Tommy Rich versus Midnight Express, was a decent matchup to open Halloween Havoc. The Freebirds versus Renegade Warriors I thought was not that good. Nasty Boys versus the Steiners I thought was a fantastic matchup. Doom versus Ric Flair and Arn Anderson, it would have been a very, very good matchup as long as there was a concrete winner and the match didn't go to a double countout. I thought that finish was absolutely horrendous. It should have had a concrete winner in that matchup. Lex Luger versus Stan Hansen. Again, a really good matchup. But was it lackluster? Yeah, it was lackluster. I mean, on commentary, you hear Jim Ross talking about Stan Hansen's days, his glory days in All Japan Pro Wrestling, and he had a fantastic career over in All Japan Pro Wrestling. But in this matchup, it just, two different styles, man. It just didn't gel in the ring, in my honest opinion. And to be honest with you, yeah, I thought Lex was eventually going to lose the NWA United States Heavyweight Championship, but I did not think it was going to happen in the hands of Stan Hansen. I did not think it was going to happen. And the main event. A couple of things I want to say about this main event, man. I thought the main event was absolutely trash. I'm sorry, man. I'm a big fan of Sting. I love what Sting did throughout his entire career. And Sid Vicious, man. Sid Vicious had a really good career, too. And I think Sid Vicious is severely underrated. But this match was absolutely awful. And I'll tell you why. Number one, the way they were building this matchup, it was all about the Black Scorpion. Who was the Black Scorpion? Why was the Black Scorpion attacking Sting? Nobody knew who the Black Scorpion was. Then we get this impromptu matchup between Sid Vicious and Sting. Okay, not bad. It's a main event caliber match at the time. But when the match had ended, you see Sid get the win originally. And then you hear Jim Ross saying on commentary that this was not the actual Sting, and that Sting was supposedly tied up in the backstage area and then came out to the ring, hit a Stinger splash, then a roll up, and then he gets the win. I'm not a big fan of that, man. And this is not the first time Sting's had matches like that where it's a BS finish. Prime examples, I believe it was Starrcade 97, where 96 or 97, where Sting came back after like a year and a half layoff, reinventing himself, making himself into the Crow Sting. He made a couple appearances, but that was his first match back, or debut match as the Crow Sting at Starrcade. Now, Hogan beat Sting clean originally, and then there was something going on with the referees, and then Bret Hart came out. Sting put Hogan in the sharpshooter, and then Sting got the win all in the same night. So you had Hogan originally win, and then Sting win at the end, and that was the end of it. This was kind of the same thing we got right here between Sting and Sid Vicious. And I'm not a big fan of those BS finishes, man. I want a concrete winner, and that's it. If it ends in disqualification, that's fine, but don't tell me that, this is the fake Sting, here comes in the real Sting. I'm not a big fan of that, man. As far as I'm concerned, Halloween Havoc, if I had to give it a rating from 1 out of 10, I'm probably going to give it a 4, man, maybe 4.5 at best. I'm not going to sit here and say this was the worst Halloween Havoc I've ever seen, but this damn sure was not, the best. It really wasn't, man. There's a lot of good Halloween Havocs out there, and this one was definitely not one of them. And I feel like the card was kind of lackluster. I really did. The card was definitely lackluster. I mean, Nasty Boys versus Steiners for the NWA United States Tag Team Championships. Again, a really good matchup. Luger versus Stan Hansen was a good matchup, but at times felt lackluster. And then Doom versus Ric Flair and Arn Anderson. I wish we got a concrete winner in that matchup, man. You got two of the best teams, I think, at the time. I mean, Doom was severely underrated with Ron Simmons and Butch Reed. And then you have Ric Flair and Arn Anderson, a part of the Four Horsemen. And I think Arn Anderson teaming up with Tully Blanchard, those two guys were probably one of the best tag teams in the world, in my honest opinion. But we got a double count-out finish. So I'm going to give Halloween Havoc 1990 a rating of a solid 4, man, at best. But this is my review of Halloween Havoc 1990. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.